Okay, looks like we're finally getting this going. I don't know why it's always so difficult. All right, I've got to pull out the chat. All right, just getting set up here. Hey everyone. Happy that this is working. This live streaming. I'm still not totally tuned into it. We had some issues last time with the stream lagging. Hopefully my connection is better. We're not going to have those issues. Let me know in the chat if there are any issues. I'm going to go through the coaching, go through the Facebook group. Yeah, it seems like this is working. That's great. I'm going to get the link, if I can find the link, to post in the group. Let me just copy this link, and then we're going to get started. We've got some great topics today. And like always, if you guys have any questions or comments, post them in the chat. All right, so we're gonna post. All right, posted it in the group. Yeah. So, all right. I think this is working. I hope it's working at least. No, I'm not yet 10. I'm in Hawaii though, thankfully. So I had quite a long trip coming back to Maui from Europe, but thankfully I'm here now, and I've had a few days on the water. I've got a lot of rust to wash off after almost 2 months in Europe and not windsurfing in the winter. But we've had a few good days. It's been at least pretty windy, and some good waves too. Hopefully we'll get the same again today. Yesterday was pretty good, and so was the day before. And I've got a lot of rust. I'm pretty out of shape, but that's kind of fun as well because it's a little bit like relearning things. We did not have to quarantine because we did tests on the day that we arrived before we flew. So we had to stop in San Francisco. So we flew from Germany to San Francisco. And then in San Francisco, we had to spend the night and do rapid PCP tests the next, or PCR, what is it called? Tests the next morning, which they offer in the airport in San Francisco. And so then they do like a little check, and you get like a wristband or something, and then you get to skip the quarantine. Otherwise, you have to do a 10-day quarantine when you arrive. So that seems to work pretty well. I don't know. Hopefully it works well as like a system. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's nice. You can see everyone with the wristbands. You know that they've had a recent negative test. So hopefully that's enough to keep the COVID off Maui, which at the moment it's pretty low numbers. Yeah, I saw all the snow. It looks like the weather in Europe is getting very wintry. Are any of you guys windsurfing in this weather? Let me know. It sounds cold. Yeah, so I'm on Maui trying to get some footage for you guys. I ordered those Insta 360 cams. They haven't come yet though. But when they do, I'll give you guys an update, and I'll post some footage. Mert, where are you sailing? What are the conditions like? How cold is it? So you guys all know the drill by now. We do the coaching based on the posts in the coaching community. We're experimenting with YouTube as the live stream host. So this is I think only our second time doing it. This seems to be working well, and we'll see. We'll keep doing YouTube if that works, and otherwise we'll find a different platform. But during the week, there's a lot of discussion in the Facebook group, and that's where you can post your photos, videos, and questions. And we discuss it during the group, and then that's what I go over in the live stream coaching on Sundays. And of course, the best part about it being live is that you can ask your questions in real time, and I can answer them, and we can have a nice interaction with the coaching. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I had a few good waves. Jimmy also caught some bad ones too. Like I said, I've got some rust that I'm working off, and some Christmas weight. But yeah, it's good to be back on the water. Okay, so Mert is sailing in Holland. Ooh, 1 degree Celsius, 15 to 30 knots.
Okay, I won't send it.
All right, so let's get into this coaching. This, like I said, this format's a little bit new, so we've got, some things to work out. So if you have any comments, put it in the chat. Hopefully you guys can all see the chat right here. And then I want to thank all of these guys, all the people who have donated to keep this stream going and improving. So, yep, thanks to all these guys. These are the most recent donors, and all these guys have donated as well before. And so that just goes to help keep this going, make the videos, make the YouTube content. So, yeah, thanks everyone here. If you want to donate, if you want to contribute, the links are pinned to the top of the Facebook group in the announcements in here in this section. Also, we did this giveaway that was right before I left Europe. So the bag was sent and received already. You guys gave some great comments. I've been going through all these. I love all the tips that everyone gave. So this is a nice thread to go through of, I think it's like 180 tips from all of you. So that's super cool. Luca won the bag. He's already received it, and yeah, so stoked for that. All right, I'm gonna get into the coaching. The topic today, we've got 3 main topics. One are backside 360s. 2 is an off the lip that Mario posted, and 3 is a bottom turn and cutback from South Africa from Jeff. All right, so without further ado, I think we can get into that stuff. Just a little check with you guys. Is everything working with the stream? So hopefully yes. And then we can get right into this stuff. We can start with this off the lip from Mario. So this is from, I don't know if we know where this is from. This is from Oman, I think. So I'm just going to play it in real speed and then go through it. So Mario's question was primarily about why he goes off the back. And we've looked at a few of Mario's turns before. From 360s, also from Oman, and then some turns from South Africa. And so we've just got a car going by. So I don't know if you guys can hear that. I can kind of try to block the mic. All right, that should be quiet now. So this was actually really kind of tough for me to analyze. I spent a lot of time really looking at this and trying to figure out what exactly is going wrong so that he's not getting the projection forward into the wave, because a lot of this looks correct. You know, he's hitting this throwing section. He's getting that high five impact right here. He's getting good projection. So why is he not going? Why is he not going in front? Why is he going off the back? And so I would go through the clip like this. Just as a little aside, when you're analyzing your own footage, what I think you want to kind of look for is you look at the head, you look at the hands, you look at the knees, and so you like break down the whole picture into these little elements. So you can think, okay, where's my head looking? And you can look at the head as you go through it in slow motion. You think, okay, he's kind of looking at the lip the whole time. I think the head looks good. What are the hands doing? All right, so let's look at the hands. So the bottom turn, the hands could maybe be a little bit wider, but in general they look good. You know, he brings the hands together in this kind of position, which is the position you want to have when you're going into the top turn. So that looks good. All right, what are the knees doing? Here we can't really see them because they're hidden behind the wave. Here they look a little straight, which you want them to be a bit more bent. So he's a bit upright coming into this section. So I was going through and analyzing this and trying to really figure out what's going wrong. And I think I have a pretty good answer about what is happening, like technically, and I'll go through that. But I don't want you guys to focus on that too much. So we're going to talk about some of the technical things, but I don't want you to focus on it. I don't want you to obsess on it. I'm going to then say another tip, which is going to be completely different, but I think that is going to be more useful for Mario and for all of you than focusing on the technical side. And so let's go through the technical side first, but then, like I said, you know, it's kind of fun to look at the technique and to analyze and see what's going wrong and what's not working. But I don't want you guys to spend too much time on that, because you really want to focus on the function more than like the details of the form. And like this is something, so hey Daniel, so this is something that I was really stressing on the clinic, that you really want to focus on function rather than these like little details of technique and form. And Daniel, who just joined us in the chat, is a physiotherapist, and he was saying that it's the same. You use the same concepts in physical therapy, where they're really focusing on these like broad functions rather than like small specifics of technique. And if you're focusing on the function, then the technique will come. So anyway, so we're gonna talk about the technique now a little bit, but then I want to talk about some bigger picture ideas that I think will be more beneficial and more useful in terms of actually improving and getting better. So I think what happens here, the reason that you go off the back, Mario, is that as you hit the lip, you go from this very straight leg position. Hello, California. You go from this very straight leg position, and as you start hitting it, you really start bending your knees. And so what is that doing? It's absorbing the power of the lip. So if you want to get height and projection, often actually you do the opposite. You go from a very bent position and you start extending as you're hitting the lip. And so by doing the opposite of that, by going from an extended position to a bent position, you're absorbing the power of the lip. And that lip then is not transferring the power to the board in the high five moment, right? So what we talk a lot about is getting that high five where the bottom of your board makes that perfect contact with the lip as it's throwing forward. That's the high five. But if you're absorbing it with your knees, then that energy is not transferring as well, right, to the board. And so it's like you're kind of, as the lip wants to push the board and you're sucking up your knees, that energy transfer is not happening, and then the momentum that you have that's carrying you forward is a bigger factor than it otherwise would be. And you can see here that as you come over the lip, you start really coming upright. Your body is coming upright, and you want to be more in a position that is a bit lower in this kind of off the lip. In other kinds of aerials, you are more upright and on top of the board, but in this type of off the lip, in this example, you don't want to be so over the rig as this. You can be a bit lower with the body, which would happen naturally if you stay more in contact with the lip in the high five, which that the knees are you can see that happening with the knees, and I think the two are related, because then you've got all this momentum going this way, going down the line, right? And normally, like if you're absorbing the full power of the wave here, then it's pushing you back in, and all that, your energy is being moved. But if you're like bending your knees, then you're not getting that energy transfer from the wave, and so your down the line momentum is a larger factor in your like overall like movement vector. Okay, so that's kind of a bit on the technical side, and I think the wave also doesn't have a ton of power, but I would say that's like the biggest issue on the technical side. But what I want you to actually focus on, because I think that this is not yeah, I think Maui does have better internet than Germany somehow. Though the funny thing is that when it's raining, the internet gets worse. Don't ask me why. But so Mario, what I want you to focus on, and I want everyone to focus on actually, is getting the timing more accurate. So Mario, this was an issue with the other clips from South Africa, where you were trying to get the right timing, and because you were going too late on the sections, it was causing some issues. And I think this is the same. So because you're very late for this section, it's causing your body to do some strange adjustments to try and make it work, to fit into this, like you've got this tiny little pocket that you're trying to fit into that is already almost broken, right? I mean, this is a very late hit, and your body is doing all these adjustments to make that work that I think are not optimal. So you're like really adjusting to get into this super late pocket, but if you had gone just a little bit earlier, I think that your body would know what to do to be in a better position to go off the top of the wave. And I want to go back when we're talking about the legs and the extension thing. So I don't think you want to just then stay extended the whole time. I think what's better is that you have your legs more bent in this stage, and you keep them bent, but in like a powerful bent position. So they're not like spaghetti, they're not like springs, they're like strong, and so they can like hold the power of the wave against the board and allow that to transfer, right? The stronger and more rigid your body is, the more that energy is going to transfer. But you don't want to have, so the answer is not to have straight legs the whole time, but you definitely don't want to go from straight to bent. You'd rather have them bent and staying bent, but in that power position. But I think in general, what you'll find will help the most is really focusing on that timing. And so this is a recurring theme for everyone, but especially for you, Mario. This is what came up as well with the Cape Town clips. And I think you'll notice a lot more progress focusing on the timing rather than focusing on these 100 different issues of technique. Because we've got, if we were looking at just at the technique of each clip, there's, in this one you need to work on your knees. The one from Cape Town you need to work on your head in your hands, the whatever one you need to work on this. And that's like a lot of different tiny details to hold in your head, which are maybe not so useful and also not going to lead to big improvements on the water. And they're also just hard to implement, all these little things. So maybe choose one of them, like the knees, to focus on just one, but have your main focus be on the timing. Because if you get the timing right, not only is it better with the board and everything else, making it easier for the equipment to work properly, but it's also easier for your body, because your body's having to do a lot of calculations and a lot of like contortions in order to get this hit. Like this is like, there's this like tiniest little area in here for you to place your board, and it's super late. It's already kind of pitching forward, and so your body is forced into these kind of awkward positions, and it's because of the timing. And so if you like, your body knows also the better form, but you've got to allow it the right timing for it then to like naturally get into that form. So coming back to the fundamentals, if you really are just focusing on timing, so getting, let's look at this. So I think you can hit this lip, this section, maybe about here. Now, I've never been to Oman, so I could be wrong on this, but just from looking at this wave, I would guess that this is a good time to hit it. And you can kind of put your board in here, and you've got a little bit of open area, but then it still seems to be throwing here, so you can still get that projection from the high five. Or even there, you can see like this whole section starts to really pitch forward here. So that's also a good time to get your board in there. And you've got a bit of room so that your body isn't so forced into just like a tiny area and it's having to do these contortions to get there. It just gives you a little bit of room for error in terms of where you're coming up to the lip, and that just helps make sure that your body is then in the right position. So really focusing on that timing. And like in this kind of section, I don't know what happened earlier on this wave, but you've got like this whole area, like you could hit the lip over here if you wanted to, and as it's coming at you, there's like always an area to hit it. So you can be kind of lazy with your timing. You can go a little bit early and you say, okay, I'm going to aim for this area, and I'm just going to hit it wherever it's throwing forward. As long as you're a little bit early, there will be a section for you there. But being late, then you're really limiting your options, and then you're forcing your body into these positions that I think are not optimal. All right, so I hope that is elucidating, and let me know if you've got any questions about that. Timing is so important. You know, the foundation of wave sailing comes down to timing, wave selection, and placement, and you get so much improvement. The biggest improvement you'll get is just by focusing on those three things. And often by focusing on those three things, focusing on getting that high five, focusing on being on the power sections, the technique will come. And so just focusing on the high five, focusing on getting your board angled so that it's picking up the energy of the wave, focusing on the timing so you're not too early, you're not too late. You're going to see then improvements in the technique. And I would say more improvement than you would if you were just focusing on the technique. So that's something to try. All right, now we've got a bottom turn and cutback from Haakgat. So this is from Jeff in Haakgat. Now, Haakgat in South Africa can be a very fun spot to sail. It can also be kind of difficult to do good cutbacks for some reason. It depends on the day. This is something I've talked about with other windsurfers who sail there, other pro guys. And like sometimes you can do a really nice bottom turn, but for whatever reason, the way that the wave is setting up, the cutback feels a little bit awkward. So that's just a bit to know about this spot before we get into the analysis. So I'm gonna go through the sequence, and then we're gonna talk through it. So I'm just gonna quickly scroll through the sequence, play out the whole thing, and then we're gonna go back to the beginning and work through it. And again, this is Jeff in Haakgat. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. So you can see we've got some good spray. Jeff is really, trying to committing to the turn, looking at the section he's going to. I like that. I think the hands could be wider. So as we can see in this picture, the next one, more clearly, the grip is pretty narrow. Jeff, I think you want to reach back almost to the clips here. It is like magic having a wide grip in your bottom turn. It just gives you so much more control and just ability to do what you want to do. So to turn your thoughts into actions. If you have your wide grip and you look at the section you want to go, you'll get there. Whereas if you have a narrow grip, it's just a lot more difficult. So that wide grip really helps a lot in the bottom turn. So what I recommend doing, what you're doing on the clinic, is you put a piece of colored tape back on your boom. Don't put it too far back, because then that's difficult to, if it's too far back, maybe then you're not going to do it, if it's just such a crazy stretch. But definitely farther back than you have here. And you can go almost to the clips of the boom. So put that tape there, and then just when you're going into the bottom turn, reach back to that tape, and you've got a visual indicator and reminder of where you need to be grabbing, and that'll make a big difference. It'll allow you to have more power, more control in your bottom turns. And like I said before, kind of the way that's realized is that you're able to better turn your thoughts into actions. So you can, it's a lot easier to just think what you want to do and then do it, than if you have a narrow grip on the boom. Good lean going on here. Having a wide grip will also improve some of the body positions. I like the commitment that's going on here. You could have a little bit more bend in the knees, but that I don't think you want to really focus on that now. I'd rather focus on having the wide grip on the boom. I think that's your that will show the biggest improvement. All right, so now coming up to the top of the wave, there's quite a long transition time from the bottom turn to the cutback. I would like to see that being shorter. So you want to continue your bottom turn up the face of the wave. So continue this position and this sort of carving feeling up the face of the wave. So you've stopped doing the bottom turn, but you're still on the bottom of the wave, and you want to continue that bottom turn up the face of the wave and start your transition more about here, and that'll give you a lot more speed, give you a lot more power and a lot more control, and then you'll be able to have more power and more dynamicism to put into your cutback. So continue that bottom turn up the face of the wave more. And then for the cutback, kind of leaning forward and pulling the sail into you. And again, Haakgat can be difficult with cutbacks. Haakgat's a bit of a weird spot. So there's an element of just Haakgat itself in this. But in general, you want to be hanging more off the gear and using your weight to sort of lever the board to get it from flat to on the rail. Laurie's asking, how long is the link of the webcast still active? It should stay active as long as I'm streaming, and I'm going to stream. The whole streams are normally about an hour. I think we've got at least another 20-30 minutes of coaching to do, and then the video should be posted to YouTube afterwards for watching again. This is a new platform for us. We were on Facebook before doing the Facebook live streaming, so we're exploring YouTube, and we'll see if this is the platform we stay on. We're not married to any single platform. We want to find the best platform for the coaching so that all of you can get the information most clearly. So, Laurie, there was not a live stream last week because I was traveling, but there was a live stream 2 weeks ago, which should still be on my YouTube. All right, so getting back to this cutback. So you really want to hang from the boom. So this position of like pulling into the boom and being really close to the sail is almost never what you want to be doing for the cutback. So you want to be really hanging more from the boom and leaning back so you can keep the sail upright, so the sail is still pulling you how you need it to pull you, but by hanging your body down, you're able to then get your weight back. So you're getting your weight back, so you're leaning into that circle that is the radius of your cutback. It's almost like you're sitting into it, is like kind of the way I like to think it. So you're like throwing your butt back into the radius of that circle, and in doing so trying to lever the board so it gets on the rail. And when you're kind of up close to the sail like this, the board's a lot flatter. So you can see here that the board is pretty flat, and we want the board to be on the rail. The board is designed to work on the rail, and that's how you get nice dynamic cutbacks. Let me see if I have an example of one. I should have some. Bear with me. I wasn't. Yeah, here are a few cutbacks. So this is a pretty onshore spot. So I don't know if it's so it's not totally the same as Haakgat, which is more side off. But you can see here kind of sitting back, like I'm really, like my butt is actually touching the water there. And so I'm really leaning back into the radius of the circle, and then that gets the board on the rail. And this is kind of a suboptimal section, kind of onshore conditions, but you can really see that working. So here I can pull up some other ones for you guys to see. And this is something we've talked about before, but it doesn't hurt to keep going into it. So really kind of leaning the back into the circle. So you can see that like my butt is really in. So like if this is the radius of the circle of the turn, like, or this is the circumference of that circle, like I'm really leaning into it, and I've got my butt like almost sitting on the water, which then allows the board, or forces the board, to go on the rail, which is how the board wants to work. So I think I've got one or two more in here that we can look at. All right, we got a few questions. I'm gonna try and find. I've got another. I should have another cutback in here. Well, I think that's kind of clear. So actually, I'm not gonna go for another one. I'm gonna answer the questions first, and then we're gonna move on to the backside 360s. All right. So question from Max. Oops. I try to remember the lip is traveling towards me as well as me going towards the lip. So I adjust my timing to be slightly under the lip for the turn, and this has worked for me. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And this is also something where the more you're doing it, the better you'll have an idea of the timing. So a lot of this stuff, having the intention and the awareness, then makes your body kind of and your brain aware of these things, and then better able to learn them. So like a lot with timing and also with wave selection, getting better just starts with the awareness. And so the awareness of things like that, like Max, what you're talking about. And if you're not aware of it, you're not learning. But just by starting with that awareness and having that intention, your brain and your body are learning things then, because you're observing, and it will start to come together. So it starts with that awareness, and that sounds like a good heuristic, Max, to use. And as long as that works for you, keep doing it. And then it might evolve, and you've got different heuristics, different heuristics for different spots. Something that you'll notice as you travel is you've really got to figure out different timing for different spots. All right, so Renee says, what is the perfect moment to go to the narrow hands position? For the narrow hands position, I think you want to do that as you're about, I'd say about halfway up the face of the wave is a good heuristic for that. And it's going to be different at different times and for different waves, but more or less, if you think about doing it as you're about halfway up the face of the wave, should be most of the time good. Giovanni, I'm happy to share my knowledge. It's pretty fun. CK Punker 93 says, in the Denmark clip, you initiate the cutback at about halfway, upper third of the wave, but not at the lip. Would you say this is a good rule of thumb for side-on conditions? So I think, yeah, so Tamaz, I think, gives a pretty good answer there, which is that the wave is really soft. So let me see if I can find that wave again. I think it was this one. So if you kind of look at this, I'm kind of struggling, or not struggling, but the wave is not really offering very much. So you can see that I go through. So I managed to get this first section, and then I want to go for another turn, but the wave has kind of disappeared. And so then I pull back, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and then I initiate this next turn, and there's really not much power in that wave, in that section of the wave. And so if I'd gone to the top, so I'm doing this turn, so it's initiating it not too far down the wave, but definitely not at the top of the wave. But I think if I'd gone to the top of the wave, I would have gone off the back. And looks like there's better timing. Like if I'd hit it maybe here is maybe better timing, but it's kind of awkward. It's kind of awkward because, I've already done this first turn, and then I wanted to go right into a second turn, but the wave is not offering anything. So I pull back, wait a bit, go into this next, and this section, you can see it's super flat, it's breaking here, but not really. It's really just crumbling down. You can, a wave is really soft when it's just crumbling from the top down. You don't have any of this here, I'll show you the moment you can see there's a bit more power. When you see this water that's throwing down, that has a lot more power in it than something where it's just this, where it's just white water crumbling down. So you want to find sections like this rather than this to do your turns, if you can. So it maybe would have been better for me to wait a little bit more to get this next section, because there's a bit of power here. But I don't know. I'm dealing with a lot of different things where, okay, so I've already done this first off the lip here kind of a while ago, and then the wave kind of disappears. I'm waiting, and it's pretty soft there. And so then this is kind of what I find to do my turn, do that kind of carving turn, and then find a little backside section afterwards. So I hope that kind of answers the question there. So Jeff, what I want you to work on is going wider grip in the bottom turn. You'll notice a world of benefits with that. And then really hanging your body and your butt back into the circle of the cutback turn. So you don't want to be close to the gear in the cutback. You don't want to be pulling yourself into the gear. You don't want to be pulling the gear to you. You can really hang from it, kind of leave the sail up and really hang from the gear and try and get that board on the rail. Really lever that board. Use all your strength and weight to help you get that board on the rail. Really using, keeping your kind of lower body solid and leaning back and using that pressure then so like if your body is like this and the board is here and you're really then using it like a lever, like a bottle cap opener or something, by staying strong and sitting back to get the board then on the rail. And you'll, I think, notice a big improvement from that. Let me know how it goes. And again, Haakgat is kind of difficult for doing cutbacks sometimes. I'm not sure if it has to do with the wind direction or the swell direction or what it is. All right, let's move on to backside 360s. So for the backside 360s, this was requested by Mark. We don't have, Mark didn't have footage of himself trying them, but he did have some specific questions. So questions are here, 1, 2, 3. So 1, when carving into the wind to initiate the move, how do you avoid losing all speed and getting pushed back against the rotation by the wave? 2, how do you get through the eye of the wind so that the wave pushes you farther around to complete the rotation? 3, how does the technique differ from upwind 360s in flat water? Okay, so I'm going to try and answer all these questions, maybe not in the order that they're asked, though. So the backside 360 is actually pretty different than a carving 360. And there's a few different styles of backside 360. There's like the traditional wave backside 360, and there's also the shaka that people do more in places like Poza where it's really onshore, and they're actually doing a shaka rather than a wave move, so that they're not using the power of the wave to do the rotation, and that it's just 100% the shaka, the freestyle move. I'm going to talk more about the wave move rather than the shaka, because that's my preferred way of doing the maneuver. And I went through and I found some clips of me doing them, and I tried to find some that were not perfect. I tried to get some crashes and some just like different kind of styles of them. So I'll go through my clips, and then I'm gonna try to answer Mark's questions while also giving my main tips to do the backside 360. Now I have a lot of footage of backside 360s that are on hard drives in Hamburg that I didn't bring with me to Maui. So this is kind of what I was able to find on my computer. And I was looking for specifically for ones that are not perfect, because I think actually there's maybe more to learn about the maneuver from the ones that are less perfect than the ones that are really good. So here, let me move this preview here. So This is in pretty onshore conditions in Ginshu. And this is really, it's not a shaka, it's really using the power of the wave to do the rotation. Here's another one from Ginshu, again, pretty onshore conditions. So I want to just go through these first, and then I'm going to talk about my my tips for the move, and then also try to answer those questions from Mark. Okay, so this one is, it's still really using the power of the wave, but it's a little bit more shaka-y. So here's one, they're not such onshore conditions, from a little bit of a different angle. This is from the drone angle. So looking at all these clips and analyzing all these clips, I wonder if you guys can see some elements of the move. So I wonder, so one of Mark's question was, when carving into the wind to initiate the move, how do you avoid losing all speed and getting pushed back against the rotation by the wave? Okay, so can you guys see what I'm doing with my board? So I want you guys to tell me what's interesting about the position of the board as I'm hitting the lip to initiate the move. So we've got this one, and then we can watch this one again. So look at the board. Look at the board. So Mert says the nose is up. That's true. So here we can watch this one again. This one's kind of interesting because it's in slow motion. So you can kind of watch what's happening here. I think I've got one more. So what I want to really point out, so you guys are all pointing out kind of interesting things, which are all aspects of the move. But what I'm really kind of interested in, and what I think is surprising when you're trying them, is that the board is actually really flat. So the board is not hard on the rail, and it's not hard like really on like any angle. So if you like look at it, like the board is in all of these, as the contact is happening with the wave, the board is super flat, and you don't have to be very so you see here, like I'm carving here, carving, but by the time I get onto the wave, I've flattened out the board. So it's actually not such a high five. It's the board is pretty flat, and that's what allows it to rotate laterally like that, rather than getting picked up and pushed by the wave on the rail. So it's a move where even though you're kind of starting it on the rail, you're not. So this is a crash, but you can still kind of see the initiation where I'm getting flat on the board. But here I'm not picking up enough enough power from the wave. Yeah, so you're completely sliding, so that the fin is not gripping in the whitewater. But what is so key about the move is getting this kind of flat board, which allows it then to get that slide. And so we often want to be on the rail, but not in this maneuver. You want to be pretty flat with the board. And so to answer Mark's question about carving into the maneuver, you're really just carving to set up the move. And then after that, you want to have the board pretty flat to the wave. And you don't want your board like this or like this. You want it pretty flat. And that's what allows it to slide so easily rather than getting caught in the wave, caught in the whitewater. And so what's kind of interesting then is like, as I'm hitting the lip here, in order to make it flat, I'm kind of on my toes. So you can even see, like, let me see if I can make this big for you guys and you can see it closely. Because there's, on this one, you can see it pretty clearly. But like here, I'm carving into it. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so I don't think I can zoom in. So you can see here, I'm carving up, but then I start going on my toes, and you can see that the board is actually even a little bit more tilted on the toe side rail, right? And that's almost like overcompensating a little bit to get it flat. And then because the board is flat, the wave is able to just push the board around, and you can just slide around pretty effortlessly if you get that right. Now there's a few other secrets to the move, which I'm going to go over in a second, but that's one that's pretty important. So I want to stay on this for just another minute longer, which is that you really want the board to be, so here you can see I'm carving, but you really want the board flat when you have the contact with the whitewater or with the lip. So you can see, like, okay, here there's a carve, right? You can see my fins are out, I'm on the rail. But then as I start to make contact, the board goes flat. Board is flat. Board is flat. Flat, flat, flat. Picked up by the whitewater and rotated around. This is a pretty powerful section, so this is a bit different than the other ones. It's from Madagascar. All right, so that's number one. So that's, which question was that from Mark? That's question number one from Mark. So kind of the answer to that is that you're only doing a little carve. So like if we look at this again, only carving this like tiny turn, like, and by here I've already stopped carving. So you just carve to initiate, and then you're leaning forward to get the board flat. So whereas we've got a few more of these. So I'll just do this one more time. So you can see the same thing, carving, and here I'm almost actually doing a little jump. So I'm like carving up into a jump, but here I'm done carving, and then I'm leaning forward, because in order to carve back, like on your heel side rail, you've got to be leaning back, but you need to be leaning forward to do this move. So all right, I'm going to go through these again, and now I want you to pay attention to what I'm doing with the sail. And so I want you guys to post in the comments, so what am I doing what am I doing with the sail in these? So let's go through this kind of slow motion. What am I doing with the sail as on the initiation? We're just looking at the initiation. All right, so there's that one. Here's this one. What am I doing with the sail? What am I doing with the sail? Any observations that you guys can see? Okay, so Tomas says sheeting in and laying it away from you. Mark says pushing down on it, pushing it towards the stern as if you're going to attack. Backhand close, front hand outboard. Yeah, so I think Mertz kind of got the best answer there, which is it's a really hard sheeting in with the backhand and pulling the sail back, like going into attack, and you kind of pushing forward with the front hand, and so the feeling is a little bit counterintuitive. So you're jamming the sail back, which is driving the board up into the wind, right? And really sheeting in with your backhand, which helps then get the sail through the eye of the wind. But with your body then, and this is kind of where that front hand pushing comes from, you're really leaning forward and downwind. So if you're like thinking about these like different, I don't know, quadrants or something, it's like you're really throwing your body into the pit of the wave downwind. So you're hitting the wave over here, but you're hitting the wave over here, but you're throwing your body this way. And the more downwind like that you're throwing your body, the better it is for the rotation. And so you're really bringing the sail back, pulling in, sheeting in, and really leaning your body this way as you're traveling this way. So you're kind of throwing your body in the opposite direction that you're traveling. So let's look if you can kind of see that moment in these. So it doesn't really, you can't totally tell, but you can see like how much I'm leaning forward there. Some of these other ones you might be able to see it more clearly. So here you can kind of see it, like I'm really leaning my body this way, even though I'm traveling that way. I don't know which way it is for you guys. So I'm traveling towards this section here, but I'm leaning my body like into this pit. So like down in front of the wave and downwind as I'm traveling upwind. And that's how you get the initiation. Let's see if this is a bit of a different section. So this is a little, I'm doing less lean here, but still really pulling the sail in. But this is a bit of a different kind of section. Yeah, so this one you can kind of see it as well. So I'm going upwind into this section, but you can see with my body, I'm really leaned downwind into that pit of the wave. And so it's almost like you're leaning towards your, kind of like in front of your back foot in a way. And it's kind of like, I know we've had a few questions about backside turns. And there's like something similar in doing these like classic lay down backside where you're in a very similar position, and the more you lean your body, the more you can get the sail laid down. So like this is just a little backside, and it's not even like really a radical turn. It's just, but you can see I'm able to get the sail really far down by doing a similar technique where I'm really sheeting in, pulling the sail into my shin. So you're really kind of like jamming the sail into your shins there. And I'm leaning, even though I'm looking over here, I'm leaning with my body in this area. And then I come out of it because that's a backside, not a backside 360. So cool, Greg. I'm glad that shows it well. Mert asked, do you curl your toes up when initiating? Maybe just in the initiation. So like in the carve up into the lip, but then otherwise you want your board pretty flat, which then you don't want your toes bringing the board up, and your weight is more like really over the board, and that's what happens when you throw your body into the pit like that. So these are some backside turns. We also had some questions about backsides, and I want to show that there are a lot of similarities in the initiation of like having the sail like really back, jammed into the shins, and leaning the body more in downwind and into the pit of the wave. So you can see here, like, so the sail is like jammed into my shins, I'm leaning downwind, and that's what like presents the bottom of the board into the wave. So again, same kind of thing. So like jamming that sail into that back shin, leaning downwind. So like this, you can see it really clearly. And again, this is a backside turn, not a backside 360, but it's a very similar kind of lean as you're going into it. Here, that lean forward and downwind as the sail is jammed into the shins. The sail is jammed so far back, which allows you to get in that position. All right, so that the sail lean is probably the biggest, like bringing the sail in and leaning into that like quadrant where you're leaning forward and downwind is probably the most important aspect of the move. So Mark asks, so am I generating that last bit of power by sheeting in hard and then getting your body over the gear? Yes, I think yes is the answer to that question. One thing I would say is that there's a moment sort of after the initiation where there's not really much power anymore, where you've kind of like initiated, and then you're in a bit of a neutral position, and then the wave picks up your board and helps bring you through the eye of the wind. And then you start to have power in the sail again, maybe some backwind on the sail, or it sort of fills in again. But so yes, like that leaning and sheeting in brings you to like it is that like last burst of power that you're doing, but then you go to a bit of a pretty neutral position. So those are like my key things if I'm breaking down the backside 360. So one is realizing how flat the board is in the rotation. So you don't want it really far on the rails. You don't want to be far on the rails either way. You don't want it on your toes. You don't want it on your heels. You want the board to be pretty flat. Really, you jam the sail into your shin and back like going into attack as you're going into the move, and then you really lean into the pit of the wave and downwind. So like you can think of it as like leaning in the direction that the tail of your board is pointing, and you can really throw your body there. It's amazing how hard you can lean, and you just trust it. And you're not going to fall in that direction. You're going to keep doing that rotation. And so you can just throw your whole body into like downwind into the pit of the wave, like in the line of the tail of the board makes. It's really quite an amazing feeling. It feels very very fun because it in these other parts of windsurfing where you're really trusting the gear and trusting the wave. And so it kind of like the first few times you do it, it doesn't feel like it should work because you're really leaning hard and in this direction that's opposite of where you're going with the rotation. But it's like kind of like magic. Like the more you're leaning in that area and the more you're kind of pushing yourself in that area, the easier the backside rotation is. And that goes for all kinds of the backside rotations, the shaka ones as well. Yeah, and then so what we've mainly been talking about is the initiation. And that's, I would say, the most important part. Like once you start initiating them, they're not that hard to rotate around. Like you kind of just go with it. You don't have to do very much. You just kind of go with it. And sometimes you'll fall, sometimes not. The more you do it, the better you get. In terms of timing, you want to be doing it at a moment when the wave is pushing forward. There's a lot of different sections you can do them on. You know, like this is pretty much just a whitewater section, but it's got a bit of push. You can see here that the whitewater is really pushing forward, and so that helps pick me up. And I've done this a little bit like a shaka. I mean, it's not a shaka, but it's more like a shaka than the other ones we've looked at. So I've got quite a bit of my own speed and rotation going into it, and then the wave kind of helps push around. In this one, I really time it as the lip is falling, and so then I kind of just fall around with the lip, which then it just makes the rotation so effortless. All right, Mark asks, so you generate that last bit of power by sheeting in hard and then get your body over the gear. Oh, we already answered that one. So Mark asks again, do you have much weight on your back foot? It depends when in the rotation. So there's some weight on the back foot starting like here. And there's weight on the back foot here as you're doing the carve. But once you get into this position, you're pretty weightless on your feet. You're throwing all of your body weight out. So you can see how extended I am out, right? So I'm actually pretty weightless on my feet. And so there's not a lot of weight on the back foot. And there's pressure that comes on the front foot. So it's not so much that you're putting weight on it, but there's pressure because like as the wave hits your board, then there's pressure that you feel, and you feel it on your front foot. So like here, you feel the pressure on the front foot, and so here there's back foot pressure that I'm putting, but then at this point, by the time I'm leaning, I don't have any weight on my board. Like all my body weight is falling into this pit area here. Like I'm throwing my body. It looks a bit, it's hard to tell from this, but the feeling is that I'm putting all of my body into this area, like way over here. And because I'm looking where I'm going with my head, it looks a bit different, but actually the feeling is that I'm like leaning my whole body. Like if the tail of the board is pointing, like here somewhere, and that's where I feel like I'm leaning all of my body, as I'm pulling the sail back into me super hard, right? So I'm sheeting in hard, I'm pulling the sail up into me, and I'm leaning in that area, and I don't have much weight on the board at all. All right. So I think that's a pretty good start. I don't want to oversaturate your brain, Mark, with all these different things. So one is the carving is just for the initiation. You really pull that. We can look these from Mussolini that you posted in the group. So this is you can see a lot of the same aspects that we just talked about. The quality on this video is not great. So this is a much smaller wave, but again, really jamming the sail back, going on the heels, and then unweighting, keeping the board flat. Like, look how flat he's got the board as he's approaching this whitewater, and then he's leaning, just like I described. His body weight is really leaning over here. I hope you guys can see that with my mouse where I'm pointing on the computer. So the body weight is really pointing over here. And then he's able to just really float through that rotation. That's an auto rotator, which is a discussion for a different time. So Mark, I'd love to get some photo or video of you trying these. So the next time you get conditions and you think you're going to go for some backside 360s, ask a friend. I mean, even just with an iPhone, like, or with a smartphone, it doesn't have to be, with a great camera, but just to get some footage of you trying it. It can be from far away, but just so we get a bit of an idea, and that can help me give you some more specific coaching. But I hope that this general talk about the backside 360s has helped. Again, just to reiterate, you want the board to be flat as you're making contact with the lip, and then the initiation is this hard carve where you're jamming the sail back, sheeting in with your backhand, and then unweighting by really leaning forward. And you can point with your front arm. So like here you can see, like, I'm really pointing with my front arm where I'm going to be leaning with my body. And so I don't know if you can see that, but I'm really pushing with this front arm in this direction, and that's where I'm trying to lean with my weight from my body. So I hope that that's clear. I hope that makes sense. Again, you can see this. So that carve up, get the board flat, lean into the pit, and push with this front arm with the sail where you're leaning. And so you're leaning in front of the wave and downwind. So I'm pushing with my front arm in front of the wave, towards the tail of the board is another way to think of it. So you're really sheeting in hard with your backhand, and you're pushing that front arm towards the tail of the board, and you're leaning into that pit of the wave downwind. But you're still like looking where you're going to go, but you're leaning down there. And you'd actually, there are some people, I don't know if I can find a video of it, but there are some people who do their backside 360s looking downwind. So let's see if this, I don't know if I can find one. So here's another example from Pozo. This is more like a shaka, but you can really see here that he's, doing that sheeting in, pushing with the front arm where he's leaning, which, he's leaning over here. So like downwind and in front of the wave, like look how hard he's leaning there. And then again, that's a bit more of a shaka, but it's the same principles. But there are some guys that do them. I don't know if I can find one now. I probably can't. Who are looking downwind, actually. So instead of looking in the direction they're rotating, I recommend looking in the direction you rotate. For me, that seems to work best. All right. I think that that's a pretty good overview, at least a place to start. So anyone who's trying the backside 360s, get some photos, get some video, think about how you're crashing, and post it in the group, and then we can do another analysis of the move. I think that's it for today. It's starting to get windy here. I don't know if I can flip this thing around for you guys to see. I don't think that works. All right, so post your photos, post your videos, post your questions in the group. Hopefully this YouTube format was good for you, and we'll just keep doing this on YouTube as long as it's working, and then maybe we'll switch to a different platform. Who knows? I'm still kind of figuring out the whole format with the live streaming through YouTube. It's a bit different than what we've been doing before. Thanks again to everyone who's donated to the stream. So that's all these guys. Here's the most recent donations. I hope you guys get some wind and good weather. Get photos, get videos, questions, post them in the group, and we'll have some nice discussion during the week, as always, and meet again next Sunday for some live coaching. Alrighty, I'm going to sign off. Take care.